Welcome into the first ever episode. It's called Conversations with Chris and Cameron. I'm Chris Beasmore, and you are.
Cameron Waddle, happy to be here.
Yeah, so this is our very first podcast together. We're going to be mainly talking about UK sports. Of course, we'll be talking a little bit of other sports like NFL, college football, but mainly our focus will be, UK sports. And so let's get into it. We're just going to introduce ourselves a little bit and, talk about some UK questions. Um, to get into it, I went to WKU for college. I graduated back in 2021. Currently, I work over at ABC 36 News as a news producer, and then, of course, I write for A Sea of Blue. So that's a little bit about myself. What about you, Cameron?
Yeah, for me, I started college going to Campbellsville. I actually played football there. I played quarterback at Campbellsville for my freshman year, transferred home, went to a community college, um, local around here, got my associate's degree, and I've been working at Signature Healthcare since then in IT. But yeah, I'm looking to get into sports media, sports journalism a little bit. So you've been a very big help in that. And so I thought it'd be perfect to hop on, do a podcast together. It'd be a lot of fun. So
Yeah, I appreciate that. Of course, if you need any help in the future, I'll definitely look over your work along with anybody else. Shoot me a DM on Twitter or, an email if y'all want to get into this. I'll gladly help. I did not know that though. You played freshman college football. How did that go?
well, I went during COVID, so I was a 2020 graduate, and I ended up transferring away. I only ended up going a semester there, so I didn't end up playing. I practiced and went through the freshman season and all that. Um, but it was a lot of fun. It was definitely. I wasn't planning on going to college to play. I was blessed to get a couple offers junior year to play quarterback, NAI level D2, and then but I got hurt my senior year and I wasn't able to play football at all senior year. So then I kind of was like, well, I need to look into this college thing a little bit because I was just planning on going to UK. And then I was like, well, Campbellsville seems like a great option. I went and visited there. My sister went there. She shot archery there. So then, yeah, we went on a couple visits and I loved the QB coach there. Still love him till this day. And went with I had a couple friends that had already committed there. So it was just a perfect fit. And yeah, I enjoyed while I was there. It was really just COVID that kind of ruined everything because it was not the college experience at all.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it. Not going to classes and a lot of stuff just getting canceled all the time. So that was kind of why I ended up coming home. But yeah, I did start out at Campbellsville playing football. Yep.
Yeah. And real quick, if it weren't for COVID, do you think you would have stayed all 4 years there? I know you transferred
I
to.
do think, yeah, I do think I would have. Honestly, we've talked about that a ton since then. Me and my roommate, me and him are still super close. So we've talked about, man, like, and honestly, it would have been wild because there's a whole lot that I got to experience in the time that I was back home going to community college and everything, like just trips I was able to take and stuff. So life would be a lot different. But I do think I probably would have stayed there
Yeah,
that
I
whole
hear
time.
you.
So
As for
yeah.
me, I graduated back in 2021 at WKU, so I dealt with COVID for the last year and a half. And honestly, it wasn't that bad my last semester of college. My only complaint was, of course, having to wear a face mask in classes. But
Yeah.
literally, my spring semester, my last semester of college, I was going to all my classes, and it felt great. Obviously, I hated wearing a face mask, but it's way better
Yeah.
than, Zoom and everything.
Yeah. That is
And
true. That is true.
yeah, and then my only complaint also for graduation was it was outside. It was actually a nice day and everything, but we didn't have to wear our face masks the whole time while we were outside up until we had to shake the president's hand, President Caboni. We had to wear our face masks for that, but other than that, it was pretty normal for a graduation. And yeah, honestly, that's our little backstory for, I guess, college
Yeah.
and everything. And I'm glad you're in IT. Hopefully you're doing well and, hopefully I can help you with the good old sports media world.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But just like I said, this is a little introductory to our podcast and we're just going to talk a little bit about why we love UK sports and everything and talk about, our favorite moments, whether us being at a game or anything. So let's get into it. What do you think is your favorite, Kentucky moment, whether it be basketball or football?
Um, Favorite moment, I would say. One moment. That's tough. Honestly, this ties in with something we might bring up a little later, but I would say the um because I was blessed to be in person for this game, the Kentucky Duke game this past fall.
That
Um,
game was crazy.
just seeing Pope right after his interview, post game, once it had all happened, and all of Big Blue Nation was sitting there, like right in that corner area. And he, as soon as he got done, he was like, you could see him like referring to the crowd and all that, talking about Big Blue Nation that whole time while he was in the interview. And he ends up right after the interview, he looks up and he's pointing and like pumping fists, high fiving everybody, hugging everybody. And it was just that moment where it was like, man, this is it. Like this is awesome. That was kind of I know for Mitch Barnhart that probably had to be a super like fulfilling moment, just being like, well, this worked out at least for right now. But for me, that was kind of like, man, this is our guy. This is he just gets it. Like that was the moment.
Yeah, I hear you. I've got so many great moments, from being media and then also being a fan because, my dad had season tickets growing up, so I went to like every basketball game, not for
Oh
football,
yeah.
for basketball, and it was just a great moment growing up. But I've got quite a few, but if you're talking about recently, I would say probably the 2019-2020 season in basketball. I was at the UK versus Louisville basketball game, and that was
Okay.
insane. I forgot. Louisville was like ranked in the top five, and then like
Yeah, I think they were like
they were
three,
ranked
maybe.
in the top 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the game went into overtime. UK eventually won that game, but that game was so exciting. One moment I do remember growing up though, I was at that UK UNC game when Anthony Davis had that block. I couldn't believe
That's
it.
awesome. Yeah, that would be my one if I wasn't I mean I was old enough to remember the game, but I don't have a whole lot of memories from it. But yeah, that one would be the one probably for me.
Yeah,
But
I remember in front of me we had a UK and a UNC fan. I guess they were probably friends. And I remember the UNC fan said, "No matter who wins this game, it's been one great game."
no doubt. No
Yeah,
doubt. What a game.
yeah, definitely. And then of course I wish I could go to, UK when they won the national championship in New Orleans. That would have
Oh
been.
yeah. Yeah, that would have been incredible. But
Yeah. What
probably
about,
probably a little hefty ticket though.
yeah, you're not wrong. What about football for you?
Football. Hmm. I would probably say this one I wasn't in attendance for, but this one's just like I will remember exactly where I was, my exact reaction, all of it. Benny Snell's touchdown against Penn State,
Yeah.
the record breaker. That one, it felt like an otherworldly moment. Him falling to his knees and like just the team rallying around him. It was just a super cool moment.
Yeah, you're
One I'll never forget. So that would
you're
probably
not
be my one.
You're not wrong. 2019 and 2021, when UK both went to the Citrus Bowls, of course, one against Penn State and then against Iowa. I do remember both games. They were very exciting. I couldn't believe Will Levis, pulled it out against Iowa back in 21. That was an insane game. The most recent game that I went to that was like off the walls was back in 23. I went to the UK Louisville game at Louisville.
Oh, that one would be awesome.
The fans were talking so much crap, and then at the very end, UK won, and I was like, L's down, L's down,
Yeah,
you know.
definitely, definitely.
So a little bit more. What made you become a UK fan?
Well, it's a cliche thing for a lot of fans, but I was born into it because of this picture up here, Cameron Mills. That's who I'm named after. So I was named after Cameron Mills. And I've also been blessed to meet him a few times. So amazing guy. But yeah, I would say just being born into it. And then like some of my first outfits, some of the earliest pictures of me are all wearing Kentucky stuff. So then it was really a no-brainer. It was like as soon as I had memories and was able to kind of make my own decisions on who I was going to root for and everything, it was like, yeah, Kentucky's it. Like there was just no other option. It was yeah, that was it.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Like you said, I was born into it, living only 30 minutes away from Lexington, having season tickets for, the basketball games and everything. And like I said, I do kind of remember Tubby Smith and Billy Gillespie, but like the first year I really focused on UK basketball was probably, the 09-10 season whenever John Calipari first got into town. UK, of course, lost to West Virginia in the Elite Eight, but that was my first year paying attention to it. I was 10 and 11 that year, so I was still young, but I do remember that, and I'm happy. UK is off to a fresh start with Mark Pope. Obviously, UK got to the Sweet 16 this past year with him.
Yeah.
I'm just happy for a fresh start. Obviously, I wanted John Calipari to stick around, but sadly that didn't happen, of course.
Yeah.
But so you said though you got your name after Cameron. That's pretty cool. I've met Cameron a couple of times. His wife used to actually work at my station.
Really?
We used to have a show called Let's Talk Kentucky, with a few other people. It's Lisa High, Sherelle Roberts, and Kim Davis, I think her name, Kim Dixon, and they had their own show. So Cameron would come to the show periodically, and actually was on the show one time.
Really?
It was like the very first couple of episodes, so that was pretty cool.
That is awesome. Cameron's an amazing guy.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Awesome guy.
Yeah, God love Cameron. And speaking of, you were named after Cameron. I'm having no luck right now with my girlfriend trying to like come up with former Kentucky basketball players to name our first kid, and she's like, "Nope, we're not." And of course, it's like this is like way on in the future, like 5 years from now. Not having any kids anytime soon.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Man.
I'm like, let's name our first child Otega.
Yeah. Otega. That'll, yeah. Nazi. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wukosh. Yeah. Anything like that. That would be perfect.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Uh, but what did you think about though Mark Pope's first season at Kentucky so far though?
Wow. I mean, honestly, a roller coaster of things because I actually on my own podcast, the Jump Sports, gotta give a shout out.
Go
I
check.
had interviewed Cameron right when Pope got hired and all that, or it was like a couple weeks after because Cameron was very busy at the time with
Mhm.
just handling all of that. So he took a couple weeks and then he got back with me. Um, and I was a little hesitant. I think I let some friends get into my head thinking like, 'cause I was a little worried like that night. I was like, man, did we jump the gun and just kind of go too early? Like, what in the world? And then I had some friends that were around me that were huge Calipari guys, and they kind of spoke some negativity into me. They're like, man, we may turn into Indiana or something like. And so I continued to like have that playing in the back of my mind. And I brought that up to Cameron. He was like, there is no worry. There's no doubt in my mind that Mark Pope will work out. And I was like, all right, well, and that honestly helped me a lot throughout the off season. And then I'm a glass half full guy, super optimistic. So just seeing all the summer workouts and everything, that started to shift my gears a little bit. And I was like, all right, well, let's get on to this. And then exhibitions went great early on, and then the Duke game was really that first test. And so winning that one, I was like, man, started out 7-0 before the Clemson game, but the
Yeah.
Clemson game, Georgia game, there were a couple games sprinkled in where I was like, well, I mean, not that I went from 100% to like 90, 95 or something.
Yeah.
But it was never down. Just the straight off rip. The press conference, the first few games, all of it went like a movie. So then um all of that from the high of being just like, man, we're so back. Like you could just really feel the fan base, all of it, like Kentucky basketball is back. So then battling all the injuries, being able to do what he was able to do, and that staff, the amazing job they were able to do to get this team to a Sweet 16, big victory over Illinois.
Mhm.
And then obviously an SEC tournament win, which we had not had in a few years. I think it was an absolutely incredible job. And it was like it really feels like a reigniting of the fan base. Like it felt like things had gotten stagnant and stale a little bit with Calipari, and it felt like the perfect fit at the right time. That's
Yeah,
how I
yeah.
would describe it. Just an amazing fit, and yeah, like I said earlier, he just gets it. Like
Mhm.
this, and he preaches to these players so much of like these players understand it. And I
Mhm.
mean, some guys they obviously grew up like seeing Kentucky, so they don't necessarily need to have it spoken to them. But the way he talks about Kentucky is just an amazing way. So it's just, I would say it's a. I know a lot of people were grading the season right when it ended. I would give it like a solid A. Maybe like the A plus is held off just because of a couple minor things, but I give it an
Yeah.
A, 100%.
Like losing to Tennessee in the Sweet
Yeah,
16 and Arkansas in the regular season. But
yeah,
yeah, you're not wrong. Like I was definitely terrified at first when we hired Mark Pope. Like you were saying, I felt like we were going to go to Indiana basketball. And then my friend Will, who I love, and he was like, everything's going to be okay. Mark Pope has this, and he was right, like he was the person that gave me confidence in Mark Pope. And honestly, like you said, looking at their practice highlights, them playing against the basketball team, La Familia, and the current roster beating La Familia last summer, I couldn't believe that, and that gave me a lot of confidence. I'm like, wow, if our current team can beat La Familia, like they could do anything. And my goal for the season before the SEC tournament was definitely get 20 wins at least, and then make it to the Sweet 16. And Mark Pope got that for my expectations, and I'm confident going into next year. My only worry is we don't have enough 3-point shooting, but we can talk about that on a different podcast episode. But who was your favorite player growing up from Kentucky? Like that played at Kentucky.
My favorite basketball player of all time, and not even close, is Anthony Davis.
Anthony.
I think it's a mix of, I mean, obviously it's a cliche answer because he's just like the man. Like, but I think it's the timing because I was in fourth grade, I guess, when he was at UK. So it was kind of the style of play, and then just seeing a guy at that time be able to affect a game so much without having to score, like it was just crazy. It was He was literally just a man amongst boys. So then seeing him translate so well into the NBA, being able to follow him for so long, like my love has just grown for him over the years, and I try to collect all of his jerseys and stuff, and that's just my favorite basketball player of all time for sure. So Anthony Davis, definitely.
Yeah, you've got to show the jersey collection on
Will
another
do.
podcast episode later for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Anthony Davis, you could say John Wall for me, but I don't know. I really like Tyler Ulis just because he was so short, only like 5'9", and he just carried the team that year. Of course, he had Jamal Murray. Excuse me, sorry, but he also had Jamal Murray, of course, Marcus Lee. That there was one player that was missing on that year's team that could have made a difference, and UK needed a big man, which Dakari Johnson could have returned. But uh,
Yeah.
Tyler Ulis is probably one of my favorite players just because of his, height and everything. And of course, there were t-shirts being sold that said heart over height, because he was so
Yeah.
he just had a big heart. And hopefully he's doing well over at Arkansas. Obviously, I wish he could have stayed at UK, but hopefully he's doing well under John Calipari's staff still, and I wish him the best for sure.
Yeah. Forever have love for that guy. Man, what a legend.
Yeah. Are you a legend?
No,
Not yet.
no, definitely not.
We'll become legends like good old Matt Jones.
Certainly.
Yeah. And then we can talk about a little bit about this roster this upcoming year in basketball. Like I said, just a little nervous about 3-point shooting, but I feel confident, probably Jalen Lowe. I feel like the three main players who will be starting, if healthy, will probably be Jalen Lowe, Otega Way, and then Jaden Quaintance.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm worried a little bit about the timetable on Jaden Quaintance. And I know like it looks like he's ahead of schedule and he continues to say that he'll be back in September, but I don't know. That seems
Mhm.
like insane speed to recover from that. And I mean if he is back then it'd be nice, but like if we could get him back for early in the year, Michigan State, Louisville, right off a rip, then that would be amazing. But it'd be tough to see that fast, especially being in the first few games, him playing significant minutes. It would be tough to see. So yeah, maybe Brandon Garrison early on, but
Mhm.
Jaden Quaintance, if he's healthy, you can't keep that guy off the floor.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I saw him play against UC because that's where my girlfriend went to school, and then her parents they have season tickets, so I got to see him, and he's just insane. Like he doesn't look that big, but he definitely is. Like he grabs rebounds, like block shots. Like I said, the main concern for him is just 3-point shooting. If he can get a 3-point shot, this team could be deadly.
Yeah, no doubt. If he could add even more to his offensive game, it would be crazy because I mean, statistically, he had one of the best freshman defensive seasons we've seen in quite some time. So if he can add offense in any form, it'd be scary. And I know his what was it, his agents were big fans of just being able to see Amari Williams kind of run things at the top of the key, and they're like, hey, maybe Jaden can do that a little bit. And I know he's talked about, I don't remember what podcast he was on, but he had said that he's actually a better passer than what he was able to show at Arizona State. So it'd be exciting to see him.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And, I feel like Amari Williams should be drafted this upcoming year. I know that's a different topic, but,
Yeah.
if there were two players that I think should be drafted from UK this past year, it would be Kobe Bryant and Amari Williams, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, those guys are special.
Yeah,
NBA players.
NBA players. Hey,
Yeah.
Williams would be the perfect backup to, Nikola Jokic with the Nuggets.
It certainly would be. And Kobe Bryant would be a good Michael Porter Jr. replacement.
Oh,
They would need
yeah.
to move him.
You're not wrong. Yeah. What's your favorite NBA team, real quick, and then we'll probably wrap up this podcast.
I actually don't have one. I'm a big players guy. So the only professional sports team I have is the Reds. But so NFL, NBA, I'm just a big players guy. I just kind of follow these guys throughout college, and then I kind of grow a love for them and then follow them as they go to the next level.
Yeah.
What's yours?
Yeah, for me, overall, I'm a LeBron fan, so the Lakers for the NBA. That's the only sport though I'm a bandwagon in. The other sports, I'm fine with the Reds and the Bengals. Obviously the Bengals, they haven't done anything since what, 23, once they went to the AFC Championship game and lost to the Chiefs. Like that was the brutal loss, and then the year before losing to the Rams in the Super Bowl. I'm like,
Yeah.
and just a professional team win, for me.
Yeah.
Like that's what I root for. Can they win? And then of course the Reds haven't really been good since like COVID. I still followed them, but not as much as I used to whenever growing up. Like I said, I feel like the last year I really cared about the Reds was probably whenever Dusty Baker got fired, like his last season
Yeah.
with the Reds back in like I think that was back in 2013 or 14. I
Think
was like
so.
a freshman in high school, so it's been a
Yeah.
while. But of course, my main focus is Kentucky sports, football and basketball. Hopefully, football does well this upcoming year. Way
Hopefully
better,
so.
way better than 4-8.
Yeah.
We'll see about that. And then of course, hopefully Kentucky basketball can finally make it to the Final Four as well.
Man, been a long drought, been way too long.
Yeah,
So hopefully so.
it's been a decade for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
We just need to get back to the winning ways for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Mark Pope's got us headed in the right direction, so we'll
I
get there.
I agree. But this will just wrap up our introductory podcast episode. We just wanted to keep this short, but we'll have a lot coming up. We're trying to get some guests onto our show, whether it be former, former football players or basketball players. So we're working on getting that scheduled, and then we're going to talk more about, La Familia TBT coming up. That'll be exciting. We're only 1 month away from that, so that'll be
Yeah,
big.
I might have one important addition, but I can't say who yet. But there's a good chance there's one big player that'll be
Yeah,
added soon.
you're not wrong. And then, of course, it's probably not John Wall, but John Wall did say he was going to come back to Lexington and check out, the Kentucky basketball team and talk with
I
Mark.
did see that. That's so exciting. That's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, I would.
Seeing him go a little 1v1 with Jalen Lowe or something, that's gonna be awesome to see.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But yeah, like I said, we have a lot coming up in the near future, and our goal is to do, one or two podcast episodes a week, about 30 minutes each. So just keep an eye out. Like I said, we'll probably plan for another one next week, but if we have one earlier, we'll definitely keep you all up to date. But thank you all for
No
listening
doubt.
and watching. You can find our podcast episodes on YouTube or also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so I'll have a link for that. But thank you all for watching. I'm Chris Beasmore.
I'm Cameron Waddle. Thank you.
Yeah, peace out, everybody. Have a great day.
See y'all.